Hello everyone, I'm M. Welcome back to TechBlock. Today I have received my first ever M.2 NVMe SSD. This is the XPG SX 8200 240GB model. It's pretty nice. XPG sent me this. Thank you guys for sending this out to me. I appreciate it. This is probably going to become my primary OS drive. It's currently installed in my PC, and as this was my first ever M.2 NVMe SSD, the moment I unboxed it, I was quite surprised at how tiny the actual SSD is. It's so small, but at the same time, I think the capacities go up to a terabyte, and it's so quick. It's so damn quick. The read and write performance of this drive is 3200 megabytes per second read and 1700 megabytes per second write, and I think the input-output operations per second, or IOPS, are rated somewhere in the neighborhood of 290,000 and 310,000 for input and output operations per second, which is pretty quick. My current SATA 3 SSDs that I have in my PC are rated for I think around 100,000 IOPS, and the read and write performance of them is somewhere around 500 to 550 megabytes per second, and it's kind of capped at that because SATA 3 is capped at 6 gigabit per second, and this, this is quite a bit faster, but unfortunately, I can't take advantage of the actual full speed of this SSD, and my PC just fell asleep. Unfortunately, I can't quite take full advantage of the speeds that this SSD offers. The motherboard I have in my PC at the moment is outdated, to say the least. It is a Gigabyte Z97X gaming free. I think the motherboard is 4 years old, and the CPU that I have installed in the motherboard, I think is coming up to 5 years old. It's really old, and I'm surprised it even works still. I'm surprised the RAM hasn't blown up or something, or the CPU hasn't died of overheating. I don't know. It's a miracle that the components still work after all this time, as for a while the CPU was under an Intel stock cooler, and it was always overheating, and recently my all-in-one liquid cooler pump died and the CPU was being burnt to a crisp. But anyway, getting back to the SSD, my motherboard is very outdated, and luckily it has an M.2 slot. However, that M.2 slot is limited to 10 gigabit per second SATA Express speeds. Now, SATA Express was I think implemented in Z97X boards or Z97 boards, back in the day. I don't think there was ever actually any SSDs or devices made specifically for SATA Express. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there was ever actually SSDs designed for SATA Express. But luckily my motherboard still has an M.2 slot. It's just capped at 10 gigabit per second. So the read and write performance that I got on this, I ran some speed tests as I have installed the SSD. The read and write performance was somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 read and I think 800 write as well. But still, the performance is significantly capped, as the read performance on this is 3.2 gigabytes per second or 3200 megabytes per second, and I could only get 800 megabytes per second. So not even a gigabyte read performance. So at the moment the drive is pretty much completely empty. For the time being, I'm only going to be using it as my new YouTube video storage drive, I guess. So the video I'm recording now is going to go onto that NVMe SSD, and whilst I'm editing the video in Adobe Premiere, that'll be where the video is stored, and that's just where all the read performance is really going to help. Unfortunately, the read performance will be capped at 800 megabytes per second, but that's still significantly better than using a hard drive or something. I can't imagine going back to a hard drive. Ever since I got my first SSD, which was, I'm gonna guess 3 years ago, I think I got my first SSD, and that was a Samsung, I think 840, or no, that was a Samsung 750 EVO, 120 gigabyte SSD. I loaded an OS on there, as you do, and I think one game, and that's it. The SSD was completely full, and I think a couple months after, I sold it to one of my friends, as he was doing a PC build and he wanted an SSD, so I sold him it for I think £30, which was I think a pretty good deal for that SSD. I think SSD storage has now dropped so much in price. You can get this for I think $69.99 on Amazon, and that's I think for dollars and pounds. So I think it's £69 and then $69 as well. So it's a pretty budget-friendly SSD, and I think the NVMe M.2 drives have really dropped in price. They're quite competitive, I guess, with even the SATA 3 SSDs, but these just happen to be so much faster. Now, when I do upgrade my motherboard and my CPU and my RAM, basically my whole entire PC, next month, I'll talk about that more in a second, I'll be able to take advantage of the actual speeds of the SSD, and I do want to do some actual performance testing for Windows boot times, probably some game loading times. I don't have many games in my Steam library, but I'll try to get a few. I've got like City Skylines, I've got CSGO, so I'll try to get a few low time benchmarks and stuff, like, you know, try to get some kind of data for you guys, so you can kind of like, I guess, decide whether you should upgrade to like one of these M.2 drives. There's definitely going to be like a performance uplift, you know, in terms of like copy pasting stuff and writing stuff to the disk. Like, it's significantly faster. It's just that in real-time performance, like, you know, using Windows day to day, I don't think you'll see too much of a difference going from like a standard SATA-free SSD to one of these NVMe drives. But I can't wait to do some more testing on this, as at the moment, you know, it's just capped at 10 gigabit per second. I don't think it would be fair to test this against like my standard SATA-free SSDs, which are performing just fine. So we'll wait till next month until I upgrade my PC now. I'm sure you're wondering, what exactly am I going to be upgrading in my PC? Well, a new CPU, new motherboard, and new RAM, maybe even one of the new NVIDIA RTX cards. Maybe. I know I'm getting like a new CPU, a new motherboard, a new RAM, like 100% next month. The graphics card, that's like a 50-50 right now. I don't know. Like, the new RTX cards, they cost a lot. It's insane. The 2080 Ti, which I want to get, obviously, I want to get the best card out there. Yeah, it's so damn expensive. I don't even want to look at the prices, like, to be honest. I'm almost certain that the one I want is either like one of the MSI cards, because like the RGB is so good, or like the EVGA 2080 Ti. Like, I definitely want one of the new RTX cards. It's just that, can I afford it? I don't know. I hope so. So upgrading my PC next month, we're going to have a brand new series featuring, of course, this SSD, the NZXT Kraken cooler. That's staying with us. It's a beautiful cooler. It's got nice RGB and stuff. I think I'm going to be getting a new case, so stay tuned for that. I'm not going to reveal what case it is just yet, but it's going to be a very exciting month. Finally upgrading my PC. Like, the components inside here are so damn old. I'm still rocking DDR3 RAM in this PC, which was originally clocked at 1600 megahertz. I've been able to overclock it to 2133, as I think that's given me some performance uplift in Adobe Premiere. I got my i7 4770 CPU in there. Yep, still holding in, still holding in. It can't even be overclocked. So next month I'm getting a AMD 2700X CPU, and I think the Asus like Crosshair motherboard for the X470. It's like, I think Asus is like top of the line motherboard, as it supports Asus Aura Sync, and the case that I'm hoping to get also supports Asus Aura Sync. So we're gonna make a nice RGB build. I'm kind of like tempted to go for like a reddish theme for the PC build. I've got like a lot of RGB stuff in my setup, so I can kind of make like anything. Like, I can change the theme in my setup to basically whatever I want, to be honest. But it might be like a black, white, and red theme. I think that would look pretty cool. Maybe I'll get some new like sleeve cables, because the cables I have in my PC now are like from Shack Mods. They're just like plain white cables. Maybe replace them with like some black, white, and red ones from like Cable Mod or something, or I don't know. I'll figure it all out next month, but super excited for the new PC build. This SSD is pretty nice. Can't wait to actually like use this as my OS drive once I upgrade platforms, as I don't really want to install Windows on it now, and just because there won't be much of a difference. It's like a 200 megabyte uplift right now from my current SATA-free SSDs. When it comes to me upgrading the RAM, I've got a couple of choices, I guess. There's the G.Skill Trident Z RAM, there's Corsair's like beautiful RGB RAM, and then there's like HyperX's, I think Predator RGB RAM as well. Like, you got quite a lot of choices nowadays in terms of like, you know, fancy RGB RAM. So we'll see what I go with next month. Like, I genuinely can't wait for this new PC build. Man, the performance on this PC now, like, I'm happy with. I don't play too many games at the moment. I'm really waiting for Mountain Blade Bannerlord to come out, you know, Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord. So I played a lot of Mountain Blade Warband. I don't know if any of you even know that game. It's like pretty old, but it's a lot of fun. So I played a lot of that, and Mountain Blade 2 Bannerlord might come out this year. Probably won't. It'll be next year, I'm sure. It's been in the making for so long. So hopefully it comes out next year. I hope early next year so I can play that finally. But I do need like a new, I need like everything new in that PC basically. I'm also still having some horrific problems with like booting up. I haven't really like tried to diagnose it too much. I really do have a feeling that it might be like a power supply problem. I really don't know, to be honest. Because now, believe it or not, there's like electric shock sounds coming from the back of the PC. Maybe like once every hour, you'll hear like some like electrical buzzing, I guess, or like sparks. Like I don't see fire or like there's no like flames forming. Oh, I hope nothing sets on fire there. But I don't know if it's a faulty cable that I'm using for the PC. Like I'm using a 13 amp cable, which is like a 5 meter. It's a brand new cable that I just bought for the PC. But because of like all the other strange problems that it's currently having, like this morning, I booted up the PC after unplugging all my USB devices, of course, else it won't boot up. It booted up and then immediately shut off. And I'm like, what? Like this doesn't usually happen. So I try to power it up again, and it does not respond. So I'm like, is this the end? Is this the end of the PC? Has it given up? Finally, after all these years, has it given up? So like every 5 minutes, I try to like press the power button. I unplugged the power supply. I plugged it back in. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with it? Like all I try to do is boot it up, and it's just like, nope, it just died. But luckily, I think after like 20 minutes or half an hour, the PC finally, booted up. I pressed the power button and it's like, yeah, I'll just boot up like nothing happened. It's got some very strange symptoms. I don't know what's wrong with it. I am gonna buy a power supply tester just to make sure that maybe the power supply is somehow faulty, which I highly doubt that because it's a brand new power supply, and my old power supply was a goddamn potato, but it held up just fine. There was never any problems with it. Hopefully I'll have a troubleshooting video for the PC coming out either this month or early next month, right before the PC build. But man, I would like to know what the hell's actually wrong with it, because like it could be the motherboard, it could be the CPU, because both those are pretty old, and like, I'd expect something to go wrong after all these years. Like that's kind of like, what happens over time, I suppose. And especially like all the things my CPU has been through this year, like my all-in-one liquid cooler pump died for like my Corsair H100i. It just stopped working one day. After doing like a new PC build. Like I installed it and it was just, the pump had somehow died after getting a new power supply and a new PC case. The pump just like, nope, that's it. But at least next month, hopefully, my PC performance will be improved once again. Like editing in Adobe Premiere will be so much better, because now and again, like it lags now. I think the age of the PC is really starting to show lately, and all the components are like, they're really due for an upgrade now. Even my GTX 970, running 4 monitors on it, I'm sure that card is not happy, especially when I load up like a 4K video on YouTube. It's just like, no, no. Yeah, but apart from that, I think I'm going to be ending the video here. Check out this SSD. Going to be doing more videos about this, more actual testing. At the moment, I just kind of wanted to mention it as, it's a cool SSD, my first M.2 SSD, and I wanted to talk about my plans for my next PC build, I guess, or the final like proper PC build on the channel, where I actually like swap out most of the components. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope to see you in another video soon. Goodbye.